Welcome to Songwriters Alive with Tom Cooney. This is episode 33, excuse me. We're extremely happy to have with us today Alice Osborn from North Carolina. Hey, Alice.
Hey, Tom, great to be here.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's a
Happy New
wonderful
Year.
day in North Carolina.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you and yours.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, we're hoping for everyone to have a healthy, happy, and prosperous new year and a safe new year. And all good energy at the beginning of the new year is always a good thing to try to stretch out as the year rolls along.
Right, discipline and intention and responsibility
Oh,
to the
fantastic.
goals.
Fantastic. Brings me back to my cognitive-based therapy days of
Okay.
learning about that in college. Alice is from Raleigh, North Carolina. She is a singer, songwriter, author, editor, documentarian of history, music instructor, and so much more, as you will find out. She writes and performs neo-folk Americana-style originals and covers with upbeat tempos, poignant lyrics, catchy melodies, and powerful vocals. You'll hear her acoustic originals are often influenced by rock, country, and folk music. We ran into each other on the virtual national open mic called Open Mic America. And I believe, were a musician playing that, and then you got involved with the team there somehow?
Right away, they voluntold me, and I loved it. And I tell you what, Tom, that was one of the best things, top five best things that I did in 2021. And I got to meet one of the team members as a real live person, Daphne Ramil. We spent a lot of time together on my trips to California this year, and we're real friends.
Yeah, she's very nice. And Dave Williams and the whole crew, they run a quality open mic, quality songwriters show up, they've got their act together. You all have
I
your act
know,
together.
and it's just how she trained me on Zoom, and it's just the whole thing, and meeting so many people like yourself all over the country. It's been a joy, and getting my friends in North Carolina to participate. That's also
Yeah,
been
the
fun
North
too.
Carolina representation is very good on that show.
Yeah.
I had started learning about live streaming as soon as the pandemic started. I ran a weekly show of mostly my original music called Three Songs for Prometheus. And it was a humorous way to thank Prometheus, the Greek
Hmm.
titan who had created us from clay, stole fire from the gods for us, and stole food from the banquet of the gods. So I was asking myself, mythologically, who else has done more for us?
That's right.
Probably Prometheus is my guess. So, and
He's a good
and
guy.
then and then of course this series as well. I do average about 10 or 11 shows a year, where we have songwriters who have a release or a few releases out, who are dedicated to the craft, who are gigging live and virtually, who can talk about the craft. And it's just this series has been just a blast, and I'm just so happy to have you as part of it now.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm ready to get going.
Same here. What were you thinking of sharing with folks for your first tune tonight?
Well, the first one will be "Are You Men from California" or "Do You Come from Heaven?" It was my first single off the new album "Skirts in the Snow," which came out September 8th, and it's all over my website, so you can check that out, aliceosborn.com, and I'll talk more about it at the when the song concludes.
Wonderful.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Hope is like bread. What does it taste like? Huddled in dirty shawls. Your cheeks are sunken in. Are you surprised? We haven't all died. Are you surprised? We haven't all died. And then Mrs. Murphy pokes her head out here and shouts, and she weakly says, "Are you men fight the snow, wrap tight heads and chokes. For the 90 miles, it's a long drive. Keep the kids alive. Now it's a long drive. Keep my kids alive. And then Mrs. Murphy pokes her head up, hearing shouts, and she weakly says, "Are you men from California? Or do you come from heaven? Oh, relief is tough to come by. In 1847, and we've been waiting so long for you. And birds won't sing, our hearts are dim. Can you scoop up a speck of life and please help us? It's too hard to cry. Whisper prayers, kiss the little ones. It's not over yet. See how they fly high from the herd. Those clouds hang close. Who wants to live the most? Those clouds hang close. Who wants to live the most? And then Mrs. Murphy points to the dead. She smiles and she weakly says, "Are you men from California? Or do you come from heaven?" It's another bitter morning in 1847. Goodbye, men, rain, sound and truth. Well, I can't sing and my heart is dim. I will lead up a speck of life, and you can't help me. You can't help me. It's too late to cry.
Wow, that's a wonderful song. Wow.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah. Can you give folks a little background on that? Because you're pointing to a very unique and incredible American event here.
Sure. So the background is the Donner Party left Springfield, Illinois, April of 1846. They left Independence, Missouri in May 16th, 1846. They were the last party to leave, part of a larger party, the Russell Party. So they weren't late, they were just part of the last ones. They became late because the co-leader, James Fraser Reed, got it into his head, he was a very persuasive man, that if they took the Hastings cutoff, it would save them time and get to California so that they could skip over everybody and reclaim their manifest destiny and kick the Californians out, get rid of their land. And remember, they were illegal immigrants. California was still part of Mexico.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and now James Reed had a scuffle and he murdered a fellow, John Snyder, in Utah. And so he was banished and he left and he made it over the pass while his wife and 4 children had to cope along with the rest of the group, now 82 or so people they now became the Donner Party led by George Donner. And the Donner Party was off on their own. Then they were joined by the Graves family, and they had to basically make bulldozers through Salt Lake City and the Wasatch Mountains and go through the 40-mile desert. It was a whole Old Testament kind of deal. They made it, but all their oxen were left. They stampeded, and then they had a scouting party, to get some food, and back over in Sacramento, which at the time was Sutter's Fort. And those men did survive the journey, and one of them was Charles Stanton. Now, Charles Stanton was a bachelor, and everyone thought that he would not, he'd come back, but he came back, and the party made it to Truckee Lake, which is now Donner Lake. And unfortunately, that was the bigger part of the party. And if you go there today, it's about 20 minutes away. But back, if you wanted to go by foot, mountain miles, it's about a whole day of hiking between the two camps. There's the lake camp, and then there's the Alder Creek camp. So, and the Alder Creek camp was the destination, the final destination and final resting place of George Donner. He never saw Donner Lake. He never saw Donner Pass. He never saw Donner Summit because he died at Alder Creek from gangrene. There was a wagon incident, and he cut his hand, and his dear wife Tamsin Donner and the three little kids, Georgia, I'm wearing Georgia's cameo, Georgia, Eliza, and Francis, were one of the last people to leave, because she wanted to take care of George until the end, and he didn't die until the very, very end of the saga. So we have Charles Stanton, he's ready to go. We have William Eddy, who's ready to help him. William Eddy has a wife and two little kids, and he's one of the stronger, very smart, resourceful men. And we have a couple very strong young women, and they form the Forlorn Hope Party. And they're the escape party. At the time, they're called the Snowshoe Party in mid-December. They leave. They think it's going to take them 6 days. It takes them 33. William Eddy is the first human being from white man that survives the escape party, and he has his friends 12 miles back, and he's supported by 2 Indians, and he finds civilization, and he pleads with everybody, you got to get these. If you look at me, and he was emaciated, near dead, even though they had been supported by Indians along the way. They had food in them, but they were still in a bad shape. And he tells them, which is 40 miles west of Sacramento at this point, you got to help our friends and families over at Donner Lake. And he pleads. And it's a miracle, Tom. In about 2.5 weeks, 14 men, including William Eddy, they make it, and they form the first rescue party. Now, Charles Stanton, to go back to him, he died within 3 days of the escape party, and leaving William Eddy in charge. And William Eddy, they took a wrong turn.
Wow.
Now, so if Charles Stanton had been there, they probably would have made it in 6 days or less, or maybe 10.
Yeah.
They also lost their axe. They also had to resort to cannibalism, and Eddy was one of the last ones to do so because his wife snuck bear meat into his rucksack, and he survived on that. He didn't share it with anyone.
Wow.
So it gave him strength and leadership, and he was able to keep his wits about him pretty much. But 33 days, and you can also say that's Christ-like. That was Christ died at 33 years of age. So there's a lot of to go back to the song, there was 14. William Eddy was part of that original group.
Yeah.
He was too weak to make it all the way up to the snow when it started the snowbanks, and then there was 10, and then 3 guys said, you're not paying me enough, so they left. And then there were 7, and it's interesting because there were 7 that went from west to east, and then there's 7 that go from east to west, or I'm sorry, I messed that up. So it was going from east to west, and then from west to east. So this was the west to east going of the first relief. And the first relief, which was left on February 2nd, 1847, they reach the frozen Donner Lake, and they walk across it, so it's frozen, and they don't see anything, but they know that that's where the camp is, according to William Eddy, and they see some smoke, but like, where are the cabins? Where's everybody? And Reason Tucker, who's the leader, says, hello, 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 and then out pops a woman, a frail woman, and she can hardly speak, and she says, are you men from California, or do you come from heaven? And there's an argument among the scholars who it was. It could have been Mrs. Murphy, it could have been Mrs. Breen, it could have been Mrs. Reed, but I wanted it to be Mrs. Murphy in my song. I believe it was because
Yeah.
she's the tragic hero. She didn't survive. The
Yeah.
other ladies did.
But that was the moment that they were waiting for. Was us, is anyone ever going to come back? And so that's what she said. That's amazing that that you get right to the emotional peak of the story in that song, because I imagine there's many things you have written about the whole journey of that team.
Yeah, and that was a long explanation, but that's basically. And then you had the second rescue party, which James Reed,
Yeah.
he led that one, and like so many things that he did in the mountains. Now he did great in San Jose, but in the mountains, it was another disaster, and he actually almost lost his life and the life of his daughter Patty.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they
I
were within inches of death.
Yeah. Hey, folks, we're already at a little past quarter past the hour. We are with Alice Osborn, a singer-songwriter from North Carolina. She has shared her first song from her most recent release of a great concept album about the Donner Party, and it is Skirts in the Snow, and she's holding it up for you. We'll see it later online too. Thank you, Alice. Just wonderful creative storytelling. It reminded me a little bit of one of my favorite bands, contemporary Celtic bands, is Solas, which has been a Seamus Egan project for over 20 years. And they did a song cycle called Shamrock City about a large number of Irish who had emigrated from the East Coast after their emigration to the far west, and the whole album was about that. And these historical concept albums are really fascinating. Um, what were you thinking of sharing for your second tune, and can you tell folks where this tune sits in the song cycle that you've created?
So this tune was pretty much, let's see, I did everything chronologically. So it's right in the middle. There's 13 songs. One is a reprise. So out of 12, this is song number 7. So if I was doing a stage presentation, it would be right at the intermission.
Right.
So the William Eddy song, which is When It Rains in the Valley, when he reaches civilization, he does a call to action and says, I'm maybe too late, but you have to go. You
Mm.
have to save these people. And then that would be the intermission, Act One. And then
Yeah.
Act Two would be the song that I just played, Are You Men from California? And it starts
One.
the Act Two, what's going to happen next, because we've just got partial Donner Party story. The rest of it is the rescue efforts.
Yeah. All right. So what were you thinking of sharing for your second
Sure.
tune?
So the next one is called Brown Ugly Dress, and it's about the dress that I'm wearing right now. And it's about potentially meeting a soulmate, but with bad timing and distance, and you just don't know if it's going to work or it will never work. And this happens with everybody. It's a common occurrence, and I wanted to feel it and write it, and then have it as the metaphor of this dress where you're doing your thing. And I tell my son, he's always talking about finding love and finding romance, and I said you have to be yourself
Yes.
and be in your element. And what I love about this dress is I was in my element. I was in my you know in my thing, doing my thing, and it was just I had a soul moment, and I said, "Ha, that's a song material, yay!"
That's
So
awesome.
I'm using the gift that I got to create this song. So it's called Brown Ugly Dress. I hope you like it. I completed it about a month ago, so it's brand new, and it's not out there. Didn't think I'd miss you before the fog escaped the bay. But every night you call me, sharing moments of your day. I lose sleep, don't eat. I pray might be true, but I'm scared it might be true. They say when you sneeze, someone's thinking of you. So what happens now? A train rumbles past and it's far too loud. I lose sleep, don't eat. I don't drink because it's true. I don't drink because it's true. Didn't plan for this, didn't mean to impress with my brown ugly dress. We had 16 hours and you gave me flowers, now you're so far away. We unfurl our secret words. I dreamed you kissed my knees. I hold my head over the piano. Maybe I should have lied. I lose sleep, don't eat. Don't hang up before I do. I didn't plan for this, I didn't mean to impress with my brown ugly dress. We had 16 hours and you gave me flowers, now you're so far away. Will you find my hair all over your house? Two wine glasses forgotten by the couch, a fire raging all alone, and your arms hold me close. Didn't plan for this, didn't mean to impress with my brown ugly dress. We had 16 hours and you gave me flowers, now you're so far away. Didn't plan for this, didn't mean to impress with my brown ugly dress. We had 16 hours and you gave me flowers, now you're so far away. It's a wish, I guess, but my heart says yes. Thank the brown ugly dress.
All right, wonderful song. Wonderful.
Thank you. And for the record, I don't think it's ugly.
Well, with your color hair, it works. I
Yeah,
think.
it's very brown.
Yeah. Can you talk about your general approach to songwriting? As you know, each song can come in a different way, in a different order of lyric or whatever, or music. And do you have a general approach for how songs come to you, or how you go about finding them and crafting them? Or
Well, for the most part, I start with the lyrics. So I'm a poet, so I will start with the words first. And so for my album, Searching for Paradise, which was the predecessor for Skirts in the Snow, so these are the two guys here. Um, it was it was a lot of um, stories about heroes, and I had Amelia Earhart, I had Rod Serling. So I did not have Steve McQueen. He was on a previous one, but I was I saw these heroes in conflict, and then I saw conflict, and then I wanted to write the song, and then the Donner Party story came upon me, and I wanted to write songs because I I hadn't seen a whole album, and I wanted to maybe some musicals, maybe six songs from American Murder Song. They're a duo, and I liked what they did, but I wanted to do something of my own creation and create 12 songs, and that was my challenge. And so I approached them through conflict and stories. So, and I read everything I could, so I knew in my head what stories and which characters that I wanted to personify, and I wanted it to be all women, so that was the goal. Except one man, William Eddy, and he was an honorary woman. He was surrounded by women, and women helped him, and women were in his story. So I felt he was a feminist, so he'll be fine. And and then with my new approach, I wanted to write songs from my point of view, because for the last 5 years, I've been told you need to write your own songs coming from you, and that's another challenge. So just like the challenge I did with the Donner Party, this is my next challenge. And how do I get inspired? It's travel, Tom. I mean, I haven't been inspired for a heck of a long time. And taking that trip to California really, I did one in February and then one in September. Really, really jolted all that mojo that had been hiding out for a while.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So you're a poet, and I notice from your website, your background information, you're also many other things. You're a historian. You're involved in the songwriting community in North Carolina. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, I was a new songwriter, a new performing musician in 2016, and I feel the best way to get involved is to volunteer. And they were looking for a membership coordinator, and this is the North Carolina Songwriters Co-op. So I raised my hand, and that was the quick way to get to know everybody in the organization and to put my skills to use. I also, got to know everybody, and my songs improved, and my technique improved, and collaborators, doing a lot of open mics, meeting people that really helped jolt me and challenge me.
That's
Then,
wonderful.
yeah, so that was I volunteered, and that's pretty much how I've been approaching how to meet people to volunteer. And I am stepping back. We are going to have a new president in March, and I also did a lot of work with the North Carolina Writers Network, and I'm still on their board, but I'm stepping back from it was a big regional rep responsibility. And we have a new person who just did the first newsletter of her term, so I'm very excited. She did a great
Oh,
job. It's nice not to do it anymore.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah,
I'm not volunteering as much except for Open Mic America and a few
yeah,
other things, but
yeah.
yeah.
Um, what advice, given your situation that you had started really getting into a little more seriously in 2016, and we're looking for ways to get inspired. What what learnings would you have to pass on to newer songwriters or songwriters who have are in that situation where they're kind of know they need to move along, and what learnings do you have from what things worked for that who made
Yeah,
that?
hire a coach, hire a teacher. That's been my mantra forever. Hire somebody. I'm a coach myself, or I don't do it as much anymore, but hire somebody that it holds you accountable. And if it's a friend, that's great. But if you pay that person, it's going to hold you even more accountable. And Matt Breckbill, who produced both of my albums, Searching for Paradise and Skirts in the Snow, out of Bella Music in North Carolina, he's been my coach, and he also helps me with the songwriting and does a little ghost writing, and he's been wonderful. So I would say find a coach, and maybe find as many coaches as you can afford,
Yeah,
as
yeah,
your time and money can afford you, and that's been a big deal. And play with other people as much as you can. I also do Bluegrass Circle. I'm doing one tomorrow. Join as many groups as you can. Play it out as often as you can, but also spend the time for getting your getting your basics done too. Don't just play songs, but work on the basics as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Scales and
Yeah,
riffs.
I would say that that's our communities up here in Greater Philadelphia. I'm with the Philadelphia Area Songwriters Alliance, PASA, a very active group, and we hold a lot of house concerts. We hold live and virtual ones. We hold songwriting days a couple times a year. I also do some stuff with the Philadelphia Folk Song Society and Godfrey Daniels Songwriters Circle, the famous folk club up in Bethlehem, PA. And you're right, getting with other people, people who sound different than you, who write different than you, It's great to hear them and listen to them. And if you can get involved with them in a songwriting community, as you said, that's great because the input is there. The help is given freely. Songwriters are generous people, as you know. They're
They
just,
are.
yeah, they're just wonderful folks. Um, what about in terms of, I'll ask a follow-up question. What about in terms of personal writing habits when the pen that needs to get to the paper? What kinds of lessons have you learned in the last few years about that last mile? How are you closing that last mile?
I work best at night, so I was penning these songs when I get and have a writing journal, have a spiral notebook next to your computer so you can write down ideas and have notes, have a lot of blank paper in your car if you need to get something done that you can't you have an idea. Also, don't be afraid of going downstairs and writing something down if you have an idea. So for that song, "Are You Men from California?" I had an idea of "Are you surprised we haven't all died?" that came in my head, and I got out of bed and came in my head, got out of bed, and went downstairs and wrote it down. So the inspiration can strike at any time, and it's your job to capture it. You can also have it on your phone, and
Yeah.
there's no excuse now with technology to write it down, except laziness. But you've got to got to get it down when the
Yeah,
inspiration strikes. And if you feel terrible, kind of just blah, try to write at least one line a day.
those are great. All good tips. All good tips. Hey, we're a little bit past halfway past the hour.
Mhm.
We're with Alice Osborn, a singer-songwriter from North Carolina. Those of you looking on the web, it's aliceosborn.com. That's AliceOsborn. No E at the end. Alice Osborn. And that's where you can find her. And speaking of your website, I'm thinking we can take folks there now if you want to.
Sure.
All right, hang on one second. Let me
Okay.
share that particular screen. And there we go. Let me make sure I get to the. Where's the? That's Joe Robinson. Sorry.
Hey.
And where did the page go? We were looking at it earlier. Give me one second. There we are. AliceOsborn.com. Great looking website, by the way. Looks really good.
Thank you, Sally Sharding. Sally Sharding did it out of Sharding Plus Design. She does great work for folks in North Carolina and beyond.
Wonderful. And you can see you got your great link right on the page to get the new album. You click on that link.
Oh, she also took the photos too.
Oh, wonderful. And this is the project that Alice has been talking about tonight, the wonderful song cycle she has created from the tragedy of the Donner Party. Um, and there's the cover of it. There's great discussion of it. Can you talk very briefly about some of the great musicians that I hear on this release here?
Sure. Well, we have Daphne Ramiel, and she is out of Sacramento, California. And I met her through our fellow Open Mic America collaboration. I also met Alan Black through Barnaby Bright. He played with them at a house concert in April. He plays cello. And I ran up to him and I said, "I want you to play cello on Skirts in the Snow." And I met Barnaby Bright actually with my husband in Crested Butte, Colorado, and they came for a show in Clayton, North Carolina. So that was pretty awesome. We also had Steve Howell, who's a professional actor musician. He was part of the band in the George and Tammy Netflix or Showtime series out of
Wow.
Wilmington. He
Wow.
and he played electric guitar. Well, he maybe faux played, but he did play it in that show. And he's an awesome musician. He helped me with my banjo for many years, banjo teaching, and he played banjo on two tracks there. And we also had Jerry Diamond. He's my piano teacher, and he played on many, many songs, about 6 songs. And William Waltz, he helped me with the third verse of the song that you heard, are you men from California or do you come from heaven, to spice it up a little bit. And that was the verse that started Whispered Prayers. And he helped me co-write the music there. And he also accompanied me on all of my CD launches. So he was there on as many CD launches as he could make. And Will and I, we practice every Tuesday and we practice songs, and we're referral partners as well. He's a really, really good friend. I think that's everybody.
That's wonderful. And you can see the add to the cart button is right on the bottom there, and you can purchase it here at aliceosborn.com. Hey, because you play so many instruments, a very quick songwriting question. Do those instruments have anything to do with how you approach songwriting?
Sure. So I do think about, like, I play violin, and I think about, oh, well, that would be great for a violin solo, or I can practice. I can think about, well, what key would that work in? Is that a fiddle kind of song? But most of my songs are now starting on the piano,
Right.
and I'm taking them from there. What kind of sound do I want? And fiddling with the different, key structures and intervals and that
Wonderful.
kind of thing.
That's good. You have some other music that's out here available. You have a couple of other really neat projects. Can you talk to folks a little bit about those two projects?
Right, so Searching for Paradise was my 2019 album, and that one is about, we have songs about Amelia Earhart, we have songs, let's see, about the Trail of Tears, I'm looking at it right now, and we have Theodosia Burr, that was Aaron Burr's daughter, late daughter. She died in a pirate raid off the coast of North Carolina. So Searching for Paradise and Never Take No Shortcuts and William Eddy, those are songs that are also on, those are three songs that started the Donner Party album, and they inspired me. And Angel shares about alcohol that's ripped away because of evaporation in rick houses. Old Derelicts was inspired by a woodcut painting of an old truck that was abandoned by a tobacco barn in rural North Carolina. And one of my favorite songs is High Noon, which is fictional. It's an homage to the 1952 Oscar-winning screenplay of High Noon, starring Gary Cooper, Lloyd Bridges, and the future Princess Grace of Monaco. And
Great
High
movie.
Noon is about one man who stands up to everybody, and they all want to give him a really, really bad day, but he stands up and is a hero anyway.
Yeah, that is a great, great, great movie. And Old Derelicts is the other one that's on here. If you can pop this page up.
All right, so that's Old Derelicts, and we of course have the title track, and we have One Time Hero. That one is about Benedict Arnold. I was really into Benedict Arnold about 10 years ago, and found out that he wasn't as bad as everyone thinks he was, and he actually pulled the country together because everybody hated him, so he was the most hated man in America, but he used to be, he loved America more than anything else, and America betrayed him, just all the politics, and he said, I don't want to do this anymore. And sadly, he wasn't loved by anybody at the end except his wife, Peggy.
Yeah.
He had a very complex life, and I really enjoyed learning about Benedict Arnold, and that's where that song came from. Boba Fett at the Chick-fil-A in Hickory, North Carolina. That was inspired by me going to Hickory, North Carolina, Chick-fil-A, and there was a big mural of Jeremiah 29:11, and I had never seen that kind of thing before, and that inspired the song. And Boba Fett's my second favorite character in Star Wars, and everyone knows Boba Fett from Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, but I predated that. I was ahead of the curve. King of Cool is Steve McQueen's nickname, and the refrain is, I want to let everyone know I drove the Mustang, meaning the 1968 Mustang that he drove on the streets of San Francisco, all practical effects. And he stuck his head out of the open window to make all the moviegoers know that he was driving it, not a stunt guy. And Siege of Derry is about my ancestor, John Barnwell, Tuscarora Jack, who eliminated a lot of Tuscarora Indians in our neck of the woods of North Carolina. And North Carolina and South Carolina were all one Carolina. And what I was trying to do was find some Irish ancestors, because I was Irish dancing back at that time, and I couldn't. I just found him, and his dad decided to go from English to Irish, defect from English to Irish, and we'll never know why, but for the cause. And his dad died, and left the family bereft and without any money. And John Barnwell, he ends up becoming a hero in South Carolina, in North Carolina and South Carolina. But that was because of his father's defection from English to Irish.
Right.
And I found that fascinating because I was trying to find an English guy, an Irish guy, but he wasn't really Irish. He defected. So
Yeah. But so he was having issues with the Native Americans?
yeah, he killed everybody. Yeah, he killed. That was his son Tuscarora Jack John. So he ended up being the head, the one who decimated the Tuscarora population in North Carolina. And you can look him up. He on Wikipedia.
Wow.
He's all over Wikipedia. John Barnwell Tuscarora Jack, and he's my ancestor.
Wow. Yeah, I guess everyone has a black sheep somewhere back in the ancestry.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
he's not the only one.
I'm
I've
sure
got many, many.
I'm sure every family can
Which
say that.
today, I mean, it comes full circle because without the Indians helping the Donner Party, there would have been no
Sure.
survivors.
That's very
And
true.
I'm coming back to the Donner Memorial State Park area in June as part of Legacy Days, and that honors the Indians
Yeah.
who helped the Donners and the Native peoples who were genocide, who had to face the genocide of their people during the 9 years of after, from 1848 gold rush times, 1849 until the Civil War days, and it was complete decimation. 30,000 Indians
Yeah,
killed
it's
in California.
amazing. I grew up in Connecticut. It's amazing the stuff they don't teach you in school. The first massacre of any significance on U.S. soil was of the Mashantucket Pequot tribe in southeastern Connecticut, and occurred right near Mystic. And they teach it freely now because it was such a major tragedy. But growing up, you never heard about it.
You
And
never heard of it, yeah. So this is my way of giving back.
yeah, yeah, no,
It's very important to me.
there's so many sources to think about and care about and write about, obviously.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
look, I'm wearing the same hat from my website. How about that?
Um, and
Branding.
Also, folks, that don't forget on AliceOsborn.com that there's a contact page there for you to contact her via your email, and she'll be glad to get a hold of you. We're about three-quarters of the way through the hour. We are with wonderful singer-songwriter Alice Osborn from North Carolina, and she is here sharing her music live and sharing her websites with us and her web presence and talking about great music and where you can get it right here, aliceosborn.com. Um, we were looking at your this page here as well. You can hear snippets from the project on aliceosborn.hearnow.com in case you want to listen to some of the things that are on there. And you can see all of the links here. And Alice, can you tell folks where those links are going to point them?
Oh, the first one's Spotify. You can add me to your Spotify list. And we got Apple Music and iTunes and Amazon Pandora. And of course, there's my icons of you can friend me on Facebook and Instagram and all the usual suspects. It'd be wonderful to hear from you. And you can also contact me off my website, off my contact page.
Wonderful. There are all your links there, folks. Spotify, Apple
Don't be a
Music,
stranger.
etc. That is good. Um, I'm trying to think here. We'll stop the share on that. Thank you for sharing all that stuff with folks.
Mhm.
Really, really neat stuff. Hey, general musical background. So, where did music start in your life? What kinds of instruments? Was there music in the house? Were you in choirs and school and all that stuff? And
All right, I'll do the brief version. So I can't remember a time where I wasn't singing,
ah,
and that was when I was little. First song I remember was American Pie. I sang that song all the time, and I love Chevy and Levy. I love that line. As a, I was a kid who was, older than chronological age, old soul, and I love that line. And the Star Spangled Banner. I must have seen it on the Archie cartoon, and they were singing, and so I was really loud and really annoying to the adults in the room. Then I took dance as a kid, so music was always part of my afternoons, and then I took flute and choir, and but I kind of abandoned a few things around the high school age. So I stopped the flute and I wanted to learn guitar, but my teacher was not very encouraging. And then in my 20s, did the karaoke thing, went back to singing, really, really liked it. And yeah, and then the music just came back probably it was through poetry because it was in 2011, about the same year that I first introduced to the Donner Party through museums, and so through travel, both through travel. So one was Donner Party through travel, and one was going to Charleston, South Carolina, as the featured poet, and they were fellow musicians. Well, they weren't fellow to me yet, but they were musicians there at the open mic. I had never seen that. A poetry open mic with musicians? What? Songwriters? What? And we were both doing Mutual Admiration Society, going, I love you, you love me, I like your stuff. And just very approachable people, and Aaron and Kevin. And I'm still friends with them. And I see Kevin whenever I'm in Charleston, South Carolina. So we've known each other, you know. So he saw me as like little Alice musician, and now I'm big Alice musician. But just kidding. But yeah, so it was they're my, you know, my contemporaries, my age, and they were doing it. I'm like, well, I could do it. And I found, I think within a couple months, I found you know, a voice teacher, and then he taught me guitar, and then that was 10 years ago. And I said, well, I want to start violin, and I want to start banjo, and then I want to start piano, and those all came later. But I knew how to read music as a 9-year-old, and then I had to relearn it, and now I teach banjo, fiddle, guitar,
Yeah.
and ukulele. I had taught a ukulele lesson today.
That's wonderful. I love
Yeah.
teaching. I've been teaching for a long time. I love it. It's just an awful lot of fun. Uh, so so the poetry was the creative uh, lyrical output, so to speak. So then when did the song start coming along? Was that around 2016 or a little
That
bit
was a friend
before?
of mine. She said a lot of your poems are songs. And I don't know if it was a compliment or not, but I said, you're right. I'll go with it. And the Benedict Arnold song, or the poem, became a song. And then a lot of my poems become songs, and songs become poems. And I said, well, don't waste a gift. Might as well see what I can do with it. And it came out really easily.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, because I do think, you know, like Chevy and Levy, I was like, I love that in the conflict. I can see songs, and I was like, I don't know if I'm doing this right, but it feels right to me. And
Yeah. Yeah.
folks, I mean, I get a little bit, oh, I like that, how that came out. And I really do like the California song, Are You Meant from California? Because uh, I studied Greek mythology, and it's a Greek chorus of the women, and then they're all saying, the mothers, you know, what do we do when we have to leave some kids behind, and we're going to say goodbye to our own children. You know, I hope they make it with
Yeah.
strangers. Bye. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing.
I mean,
Amazing.
not all the moms were able to go. Mrs. Reed was able to go, but she had to leave on the rescue party. She had her daughter and older son who was 5, but her 8-year-old girl and her 3-year-old son had to go back to the lake camp.
Wow.
I mean, I
Yeah.
can't imagine. And then it was little Patty Reed who says, "Don't worry, Ma. You know, everything will be all right. Just do the best. If I don't make it, just do the best you can." 8-year-old.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Yeah, she made everybody cry.
I imagine. I imagine. Hey, folks, we're wrapping up our Songwriters Alive show, episode number 33, with Alice Osborn, a great singer-songwriter from North Carolina. You can find her on aliceosborn.com. No E at the end of that, aliceosborn.com. And you can see her on her great Reverb Nation page as well. She's available on all major streaming services. You can reach out and find her social media links there as well. And it's just been a real gas having you here. It was great meeting you on the National Virtual Open Mic America. Uh, uh, it's great that the work that you and all the team there do, and I enjoy appearing on that show. You guys do a great job of running it, and I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. The hour's gone by so quickly, Tom, and you booked me, what, back in September. It was right after the trip, I think, September 21st.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It always does. These things, musicians and songwriters in particular, just love to talk about the process and love to talk about how important music is to them and how important it should be to everyone to keep it in your life every day.
I think a lot of people do, but
Yeah,
original music is you have to work hard, a little harder to get into it because it's not a pop cover song.
yeah,
So it's just like the first time you hear a song from your favorite artist, you have to give it a try a couple times. And it's just like poetry, although songs are a lot easier to access than poems, I believe.
yeah. I agree. Yeah, it's
And that
worth
was
it.
one of the reasons I did a switch, although I'm writing poetry again.
Yeah, yeah.
Writing one about a mountain lion, trying to work on that draft. I promised a few rangers in California to get that done.
Wonderful, wonderful.
They're on my side.
So don't forget, folks, it's aliceosborn.com. The new release is Skirts in the Snow, a wonderful song cycle about the Donner Party tragedy, a very creative release. Alice, what were you thinking of sharing with folks to take us out, and anything you want to say to folks as you're saying goodnight?
Sure, this is a brand new song, and I'm taking a big risk doing it because it's not quite under my belt, but it's called Monster Blaze, and it's about the mosquito fire of 2022, and the Donner Party hikes were about to be canceled for the third year because of the smoke. So I wanted to write something about this, and I just personified the whole feeling, and here it is. I also want to give credit to Bill Odegeest. He's the Donner Summit Historical Society president, and he wrote this email that I didn't really was supposed to get, and I used some of his language as an inspiration. So thanks, Bill, if you're listening, to get the technical terms right. Met you on a mountain up 7,000 feet when the wind blew smoke up in from the east. I'm a solo act, don't surprise me, far from home, but not alone. I like control, but you took it away. The air grows thick with ash. Something's pulling at me to stay far from home, but not alone. That air weaves all around you. Everything was fine before you. Danger weaves all around you. Our paths cross and we burn every day. I should get away. The view disappears across the lake. The winds twist, won't stay the same. The north wind's good, but a west wind's wrong. Is the fire coming up? The canyon too strong? Far from home, but not alone. That air weaves all around you. Everything was fine before you. Danger weaves all around you, and you see me. Let the winds switch in time, 'cause everything was fine before you. Danger leaves all around you. Our paths cross and we burn every day. Our paths cross and we burn every day.
Wonderful song.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And that's brand new?
That is from the last week. Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. And what was the title of that one again, please?
It's called Monster Blaze.
Monster Blaze. Got it. Wonderful.
Monster Blaze.
Yeah.
Yes.
Boy, the refrain in that song really hits your vocal pocket perfectly, those high notes. It really, really powerful.
Thank you. And it was inspired by my friend and mentor, also Philip Gerard, and he passed away November 7th of this year. It was very, very sudden. He was only 67. And one thing he taught me two things. He said, when you're working on your novel, Alice, make sure that it's with events. You don't do a sprawling, Dora the Explorer nonsense. He said, you have to have events and a start, finish. It'll make everything great and conclusive and easy for the reader. And the second thing he said was, everything was fine before you showed up. And that's how stories start. I went, oh my God. So Philip is in this song too. And I've been, I would say not lazy, but kind of trying to figure out the intention for my novel. And my intention, and I'm happy to tell everybody here and you, is that my intention is to get the first draft of my novel done by June. And I hear Philip with me. So it's to honor Philip as well. And this is what song I feel does that.
That's
So thank you.
wonderful. That's wonderful. It's a great song and great that you're sharing the inspiration that came your way and sharing it forward with other people, sharing your music forward.
Thank you.
Our guest tonight has been Alice Osborn, singer-songwriter from North Carolina. Find her on aliceosborn.com. Alice, thank you so much. And we hope to see you soon.
Hope so.